This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money, you sorry
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
In 651 Carpets Plus Studios. Gaardsy in for Barreiro today. I'll be in all week. Brett Blakemore will be here as well. I'll be off on Thursday, so mark your calendars. Russo Radio will step in that day. But we are here until 6:30. Monday, regular Johnny Athletic is going to join. He'll join at 5:30 to talk about Kevin Durant not coming, to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the NBA championship, and, of course, to preview the week that will be in NBA circles with a lot going on, with the draft starting on Wednesday. 3:30, one of my buddies, Pierre Noujaim from Fox 9 Sports, is going to come in. I was just telling Common, somebody once texted to the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line 64686. I'm not convinced Pierre Noujaim is a real person. I feel like he's a bit that you concocted that comes in to say things you really want to say but can't because they offend too many Minnesotans. And I say, Brett Blakemore, you're not that far off. If I were to create a bit, it would be Pierre, but that's why I like having him in.
Yeah, he gets people going, I think, more than anybody else, and he'll just take direct shots at, what was it, driving last time?
Driving, the Target checkout line.
Yeah.
He's got a wedding coming up, so maybe we'll get some advice for him as I think he had his bachelor party a few weeks ago. There's a lot to get into with him, and I want to talk a lot of basketball and maybe a little football as well. I want feedback throughout the show. You know the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line is 64686. You can also tweet me at Gaardsy on social media on X. You can also tweet Brett at Brett KFAN. He would love it if you boost his follower count. It would certainly mean a lot to him. At Brett KFAN. He's named for Brett Favre, former Packer and Viking and Jets quarterback, a name that has not aged very well.
No.
That has not aged very well.
Did you watch the documentary?
I haven't yet, and I probably should before this week is done, and then we'll have some thoughts as the week goes out. You can also, today, and I want talkbacks early and I want them often, we don't do talkbacks enough on Bumper to Bumper, so we're going to try to get in the habit of that this week and hopefully next week as well. But go to the iHeartRadio app, hit the microphone icon there. You've got 30 seconds to say what you want to say. And a couple of topics early before Pierre comes in at 3:30. This is kind of the what could have been or what may have been, what might have been edition of the Bumper to Bumper show, the Cake Show edition. What could have been. The Wolves could have had Kevin Durant. Had a feeling yesterday as I was in line at the log shoot for the second or third time at Nickelodeon Universe with my kids yesterday that the Kevin Durant news was going to break. And it did. We were in line waiting to get onto the log chute, and we get the shams bomb that Kevin Durant is on his way to Houston. He could have been in Minnesota if only he wanted to. We'll talk about that as the show goes along. How do people feel about that KD is not coming here? It sounds like the Wolves were very interested. We're going to play some sound and talk to Johnny about it later in the show, that as recently as a week ago, it looked like the Wolves were in a pretty good spot given what they were offering. And as Brian Windhorst from ESPN said, maybe even closing in on a deal until Kevin Durant said, Minnesota, not going to work. How do we feel about that? Are we glad? Do we feel like we dodged a Kevin Durant bullet? Are we disappointed that Houston now maybe has usurped a spot in the Western Conference pecking order? I know technically they were the 2 seed this year ahead of the Wolves, but I would have taken my chances in a Wolves-Rockets playoff matchup if you're just asking me which team is better on paper. So hit the talk back on that. What could it have been? What could have been? What might have been? And this one bummed me out as a sports fan. If Tyrese Halliburton doesn't blow his Achilles in the first 7 minutes of Game 7 last night. I tweeted this out before. I said it on Friday. I wanted it on the record in case an Indianapolis miracle happened last night at the Paycom Center, that the Pacers won for the greatest city in the world, Indianapolis, Indiana. We all know that. It's been documented. It's universally known that everything is better in Indy, and that includes basketball. But had they shocked the world last night and knocked off the 68-win MVP-toting Oklahoma City Thunder, I wanted it on the record that there's a path for them to win. Even though it's Game 7, even though it's Shea, even though it's on the road, if they can somehow keep it close and make it a game in the fourth quarter, we've seen over and over again, even in these playoffs, and even last night a little bit, that the high-flying Thunder aren't the high-flying Thunder when they're not having those patented crazy runs where they jump up by 20 and just or take a 10-point lead and make it 20. Right? Lou Dort's threes don't fall quite as much. Caruso's threes don't fall. Wiggins' threes don't fall. Chet's not the same guy. If you can get it close, you have an opportunity because they do tense up. They do freeze a little bit. They are playing with the pressure and expectation of a team being the number one overall seed for 2 years in a row. That has to matter. And 7 minutes in, it was a fleeting thought, right? Because Halliburton goes down. The Pacers are still leading at the half, which is a little bit remarkable. But I think that speaks to kind of how they were rolling the last 2 months. And what happens? Oklahoma City goes on one of their patented third-quarter runs. Think they outscored the Pacers by 14. It was pretty much over from there. They extended the lead, I think, to 21 or 22. Pacers tried to make it interesting, had an opportunity to cut it to single digits with about 4 minutes to go. But guess what happened? T.J. McConnell dribbles the ball across half court. Lou Dort swipes it, turnover. Think Oklahoma City scored the next possession. That was pretty much it. So what could have been? Because regardless of who you were cheering for last night, the whole thing just felt weird, didn't it? People were criticizing the Thunder for not really celebrating the title, like going crazy. First of all, they were up by a lot. Second of all, we kind of knew they were going to win those last couple of minutes. And third of all, I think a lot of it was out of respect to the Pacers that their heart and soul went out in the first quarter. For all intents and purposes, that game was curtains at about, 7:15 Central Time. So it just there was so much buildup. The numbers were the overnights I saw were 18 million people were watching at a point last night, maybe right at the beginning, which would be the biggest number. That's a big time number. That's a huge number. Even if it's a little bit off, that's a big number for Game 7 because Game 7 brings the casuals. Game 7 brings all the eyeballs. And when you think Game 7 for everything, you want it to be mythic. And when Halliburton goes down, you lose out on that mythology. And that's a buzzkill for everybody. The last one, and perhaps the most controversial, what could have been, and this will get people going, I think. What could have been, Brett Blakemore, if the Wolves had gotten the finals whistle? If they didn't get the Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals whistle, where, kudos to Shea, I've never seen a player improve his balance so much from one series to the next. It was incredible. I will go to the grave saying the way that series was officiated, the first two games, was a complete debacle. And it set a very negative tone for the rest of the way for my favorite team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, fairness and savagery, my team could have showed a little bit more mental fortitude and a little bit more mental toughness. In fact, in Game 5, it was embarrassing. And we probably still don't talk too much about that they essentially just rolled over. But in all seriousness, and it probably wouldn't have made a difference because I don't think the Wolves were good enough, and that's something else that we'll talk about here. I would have loved to see the Western Conference Finals series play out if it was officiated like the finals were, where there wasn't a lot of flopping, there wasn't a lot of nonsense. Go back and watch the first 5 minutes of Game 1. It was a disgrace. Shea was flopping all over the place like he was a baby giraffe just learning how to walk in one of those National Geographic videos that you see in school that my kids bring home and watch on their iPad. That stuff was non-existent after it stopped games like 3, 4, and 5 of the Western Conference Finals. And in the finals, I thought it was awesome. I thought his level was good. I thought the fact that he wasn't flopping all over the place was great. There's always going to be some. Every player has some. That I don't think anybody disputes. But I would have liked to see how that whole thing played out because my team couldn't handle it, unfortunately. They did not have the mental fortitude for a long enough time to deal with it and probably let it get it too much in their heads like me. But I'm not supposed to play. I can just comment and watch. They didn't have enough. And that might be what haunts me as a Wolves fan as we move forward into the future here. Is it's back-to-back seasons where the Wolves just didn't have enough at the correct time in Western Conference Final Series against teams that we saw were not unbeatable. Dallas certainly was not unbeatable a year ago. They ran into a great Boston team, but you saw Boston expose them in so many different ways that the Wolves really didn't even try or attempt. And even Chris Finch has said before that he'd love to have that series back because he feels like he got that one wrong and how they approached the first couple of games. And this year, we left the Oklahoma City series thinking, I don't know how you're going to beat that team. That team's loaded. That team's locked. When the series before, they were extended to 7, and the series after, they were extended to 7. So it does leave me wanting a little bit more for my squad here, going, what have the Wolves been missing? As great as the runs have been, and you know me, what do I always say?
Enjoy the season.
Enjoy the season, and only one team's happy at the end of it. I kind of feel worse for a second straight year after watching the NBA Finals. Because, again, you never know when your window's closed. Another thing we're going to talk about for the rest of the show, including with Johnny, is the conventional wisdom, or a popular opinion, I should say, is that the Thunder are about to take over the next 5 years because of how young they are, how their contract situation, all of that stuff. I don't necessarily buy it, and it's something that we're going to talk about, but you certainly can't rule it out. They're in as good a position as anybody in the new second apron world with what they've already done and what they have yet to accomplish in terms of draft picks and contracts and everything like that. They're in a wonderful spot. But so I just wonder, will we be looking back in 3, 4, 5 years going, it was 24 and 25. That was the Wolves window. That was the Wolves window when they had the best opportunity to win a championship. Hit the talkback for me, please, on the iHeartRadio app. Let me know how you feel about the KD non-deal to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let me know if you feel any difference or indifference towards the Wolves after what you saw in the NBA Finals these past 7 games, where for a second straight year, a team, I guess, is not as unbeatable as they appeared to be when the Minnesota Timberwolves played them in the Western Conference Finals. Anything else that's on your mind? We'll take talkbacks on anything between now and 6:30. Pierre Noujaim is coming up at the bottom of the hour. Johnny Athletic at 5:30. We've got $1,000 in your hand, though, first.
We do. The Fan and BigDeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Head to KFAN.com. Enter the keyword check. The keyword check, KFAN.com. Keyword check.
When we come back, it's okay for you not to appreciate the Oklahoma City Thunder. You are not obligated to, and we'll talk.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
The last thing anyone wants is to leave behind confusion, stress, or worse, family conflict. That's why estate planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for families like mine, and probably like yours. With Trust and Will, I created my estate plan in minutes, from naming guardians for my kids to putting our house in a trust to avoid probate. Fast, affordable, and way easier than I thought. Every plan is designed by estate planning attorneys and customized for your state. Plans start at just $199 and include essentials like healthcare directives and power of attorney. With Trust and Will's bank-level security and built-in privacy protections, your personal information and your wishes stay safe. Whether you're newly married, raising kids, caring for aging parents, or just want peace of mind, Trust and Will makes it easy to protect what matters most. Go to trustandwill.com, use code RADIO at checkout, and save 20% on your personalized plan. Because there's no better time to protect the people you love. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle with ease. And this summer, you're in the driver's seat with savings. You can get a $250 bonus when you buy your next car through Navy Federal's car buying service, powered by TrueCar and financed with Navy Federal. With this tool, you can find the vehicle that's right for you as you search through inventory and compare models. And you could get an amazing rate when you finance with Navy Federal. Navy Federal strives to support all active duty, veterans, and their families to achieve their personal and financial goals. And this partnership with TrueCar is one of the many tools Navy Federal uses to help its members. Make your plan with Navy Federal and TrueCar today. Navy Federal Credit Union. To qualify for the $250 bonus, car purchase and financing must be completed by September 2nd, 2025. Terms and conditions apply and are available at NavyFederal.org/TrueCar. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
About that when I come back.
Elevate your 4th this year with $100 to Fireworks Forever. Check out our contest page for your chance to win $100 Fireworks Forever gift card. Stock up for the 4th. Head to KFAN.com, keyword contest. Enter today.
The overnights from ESPN. Gaardsy in for Barreiro today. Brett Blakemore here as well. Pierre Noujaim, Fox 9. Coming in studio next segment for a while. Johnny Athletic at 5:30. The average audience for last night's Game 7, 16.35 million viewers. It was the most watched NBA Finals game in 6 years. The peak audience last night, I undersold it, $19.28 million. According to ESPN, who else is going to throw out these numbers? This is a good story. They want to tell it. 2025 NBA playoffs viewership across ESPN and ABC up 10% year over year. And that's why it was such a buzzkill when at 7:20 Central, Halliburton's on the ground. And and one of the things we might talk about later, and I've actually reached out to the orthopedic surgeon community on this, is it me or do Achilles injuries seem like they're popping up all the time right now? This is 3 now, just in the last couple of months in the NBA. Dame Lillard, Jason Tatum, and last night, Tyrese Halliburton. And there's a piece of Austin Rivers sound we'll play, former Timberwolf, former NBA player Austin Rivers, where he basically says, what is happening? What is going on? Is it as simple as just bad luck? Because even if you want to branch out to football, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, right? There's been others. Go back a few years in the NBA, Kevin Durant. So we're going back in time a little bit. But it does seem odd that 3 players who play a lot, there's no doubt, Jason Tatum, Halliburton, and Dame Lillard, are all out with Achilles. And now you look at the Eastern Conference next season, it's wide open, right? I mean, if you're an Eastern Conference team, if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, if you're the Orlando Magic, if you're just a team that's kind of in the middle, says maybe we should make a big trade this week because all of a sudden we might be a top 3 seed. The Knicks have to be feeling really good about their position, but that's why it was so disappointing that Halliburton got injured last night. It's always a bummer. Now he's going to be out for next season probably with the way that these injuries go. And the Pacers may never cross this way again. You never know when your time is up. We just talked about that with the Timberwolves. You never know when it is your window and whether or not you miss it or not. So disappointing in all fronts. I'm also disappointed. We've talked a lot about the ESPN coverage the last few weeks. I haven't been as offended by it as a lot of people. To me, I think we probably talk about it too much. Not just this show, but just the public in general. We probably spend too much time going, this person sucks, that person sucks. It doesn't feel like the finals. Because we all have this nostalgia of Bob Costas narrating us for, 5 straight minutes to talk about Michael Jordan and Karl Malone going at it at the Delta Center in 1998. We all have this certain nostalgia. And when you're breaking in a new crew like they were with Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson, and you've got the Stephen A. Smith factor, as polarizing as he is, I happen to like him. He's really grown on me over the years. I'm hoping that Pierre Noujaim has that effect on our radio audience as we continue to have him on. He's really worn on me. We probably spend too much time on it, but it has been interesting that, and I don't think it's a good tact by the ESPN people, that they're kind of clapping back publicly. Like Doris Burke even last night talked about, we've heard a lot about low ratings and, mid-market teams and blah, blah, blah. And this has been a great series. We get it. Kendrick Perkins, who I also like, retweeted the tweet that I just read from, talking about the ratings. And he goes, all I've heard about is low ratings. And it's like, well, Perk, it's not because of you, man. It's because it was Game 7. And it makes you look stupid and small if you're going to clap like that. Like, just, you have the gig. You have the job. You are winning. No one's firing you because Game 6 wasn't very high. Like, you're doing just fine. I just don't think it's a very good look for people with the network to do that. At least that's what we've been taught. We try not to do that every once in a while, right? You've been told not to respond. You've been told don't click on it. You've been told to take the high road, right?
Most of the time.
You've been told it all the time. Most of the time you do it. It's easier said than done, but I just don't think it's a good look when it wasn't a very good presentation. I mean, they were very reactionary with a lot of things. There weren't even, and I don't know if this is an NBA thing or if this is an ESPN thing, there weren't even logos on the floor that indicated this was the finals. I am old enough to remember when, like, you couldn't miss the Rose Bowl-like script cursive, the finals, on the floor, right? And I don't even think they had that. They finally put the Larry O'Brien trophy on there, and I don't know if that was a TV imagey trick that they ended up doing, but because there should be some differentiation, but it didn't bother me as much as it bothered everybody else.
I mean, the digital, like, you see that, like, not to bring my sport into it, but the Stanley Cup playoffs, it used to be written on the ice, you know, right inside the blue lines, Stanley Cup playoffs, and there it was. And now we're just, well, we'll just throw it in as a graphic.
Just do it in graphics?
Yeah. And I don't know, not that it really matters, but it does lose a little bit of that big game feel when it's on there.
Yeah, I heard it phrased that because the other thing they did, I think, before Game 5 was they showed the starting lineups on TV for the first time in a while. They hadn't done it in about 8 years. And does that make or break a broadcast? It doesn't. But I think all the little things add up to, you know, probably the viewing experience to differentiate a little bit, make it a little bit better. But they also hadn't done that in like 7 or 8 years, and nobody seemed to notice until this year when it seemed like it was just a piling on. And I think a lot of it had to do with the crew. And anybody that followed me on Twitter during the Western Conference Finals knows that I was not a huge fan of the analysts. Now, full disclosure, most of it was because why? They were defending Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's flopping. And that just pissed me off. And it still makes me mad. I'm not proud of how annoyed I was by it, but I don't think they were awful. I didn't like them as a fan because I didn't like what they were saying about my team. It probably says more about me than it does about them. But they were also in some respects replacing a team that had been doing it for like 15 years with Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. That was their big mistake. If you really want to pare it down, they never should have gotten rid of that trio. Especially when one of the reasons why they got rid of Jeff Van Gundy is they were worried that he was going back into coaching when he hadn't coached since like 2005. And then the guy they replaced him with, Doc Rivers, left after 10 minutes to go coach your team and Sinekin's team, the Milwaukee Bucks. So they made a mistake there. Real quick, before we pause and bring Pierre in here, you're going to hear a lot, and you've already heard a lot. You've heard a lot for the last 2 months about how this is one of the great runs in NBA history, and this is one of the great historical teams in NBA history, and 68 regular season wins. And I think 64 of them were by double digits. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's doing things that like 3 people in the history of the league have done. And you've never seen a player like this. And oh my gosh, the balance. And they all do their interviews together. And it's just the most wonderful story of all time. They don't look now. They might win the next 3 NBA titles. You are not obligated to love watching the Oklahoma City Thunder play. In fact, I am elated that the season is over, so I don't have to watch anymore. Because it did start to grate on me. And again, it was because of my Timberwolves fandom. I'm completely self-aware about that. But I go back to everything that Chris Finch said back in February, that they foul all the time and then you can't touch Shai. And we saw that play out in the Western Conference Finals. What really did it for me last night is when the game is in hand, Alex Caruso is absolutely killing somebody. I don't even remember who. Gets called for an obvious foul and is complaining to the ref, wants a replay, and I just go, just enough, man. You've been killing people for 3 months. You've been absolutely assaulting people for 3 months, and for whatever the reason, good on you. They don't call it as much on you as they do on other teams, and here you are. You're going to get your second Larry O'Brien trophy, and you deserve it. You've played magnificently, but the whole thing bugs me. I get it makes me small. I don't care that it makes me small. I know there's a lot of you out there that are with me that don't like watching it, that haven't liked watching it, and now we don't have to watch it until October. And we may have to watch it opening night. The Wolves might end up going there for the ring ceremony opening night on ESPN or TNT. Well, it won't be TNT. It might be NBC. NBA opening night, it might be Wolves Oklahoma City Thunder to open the whole deal up. Anything you want to add?
I'm just ready for John Tesh to come back. That's what I'm ready for.
That is so nice to have that back.
Yeah.
He looks good, too. You know,
Yeah, I
even
saw
though
the
the
little
time's
teaser.
passed, he looks good. Tesh aged very well, and the song, of course, is iconic. Pierre Noujaim, Fox 9 Sports, is going to hang out. We've got much more NBA discussion, some NFL discussion to get to as well. Twins are absolutely bottoming out. It's not going well there. We'll touch on that before we are done. Don't forget Johnny Athletic.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
The last thing anyone wants is to leave behind confusion, stress, or worse, family conflict. That's why estate planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for families like mine, and probably like yours. With Trust and Will, I created my estate plan in minutes, from naming guardians for my kids to putting our house in a trust to avoid probate. Fast, affordable, and way easier than I thought. Every plan is designed by estate planning attorneys and customized for your state. Plans start at just $199 and include essentials like healthcare directives and power of attorney. With Trust and Will's bank-level security and built-in privacy protections, your personal information and your wishes stay safe. Whether you're newly married, raising kids, caring for aging parents, or just want peace of mind, Trust and Will makes it easy to protect what matters most. Go to trustandwill.com, use code RADIO at checkout, and save 20% on your personalized plan. Because there's no better time to protect the people you love. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle with ease. And this summer, you're in the driver's seat with savings. You can get a $250 bonus when you buy your next car through Navy Federal's car buying service, powered by TrueCar and financed with Navy Federal. With this tool, you can find the vehicle that's right for you as you search through inventory and compare models. And you could get an amazing rate when you finance with Navy Federal. Navy Federal strives to support all active duty, veterans, and their families to achieve their personal and financial goals. And this partnership with TrueCar is one of the many tools Navy Federal uses to help its members. Make your plan with Navy Federal and TrueCar today. Navy Federal Credit Union. To qualify for the $250 bonus, car purchase and financing must be completed by September 2nd, 2025. Terms and conditions apply and are available at NavyFederal.org/TrueCar. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
About 2 hours from now.
If you want to chime in what's happening in your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That is 64686. Standard text message and data rates apply.
Welcome back, Gaardsy and for Barreiro today. Johnny Athletic about 5:30. Brett Blakemore here as always. Top 5 at 5. We've got a lot to get to. And in studio for a while, it's pretty much open-ended. My buddy from Fox 9 Sports, Pierre Noujaim. How are we doing?
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. I'm impressed because you're getting married August 10th.
I am, yes.
This is the full court sprint now, or is the hay in the barn?
It's there's still T's to cross and I's to dot, but for the most part, we're pretty much set.
Thanks again for inviting me to your bachelor party in Vegas. That was great. I really enjoyed it. Had an awesome time with you. Oh, wait.
I thought I actually did think of you when I was there because of how you tell me all the time about how you and I lead just two completely different lives.
Could not be more opposite.
And I thought to myself, man, Gaardsy would have loved this trip. He would have loved this trip. It was something else. We were there for like 53 hours. I slept like 7 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was chaos.
And you did, because you're still pool party Vegas guy, which even when I was Brett Blakemore's age and younger, that was not my vibe. Shocking to nobody that I wasn't fired up about the Vegas pool party scene. Or having to check my shoes to figure out if they were good enough to get into the palms.
Right.
Yeah.
You just want to be at Circa next to the screen.
Oh, still have yet to do that one. I've been to the sports book at Circa inside, but I've yet to do the pool. So that's next on my to-do list next time I go out there. But in my defense, in terms of the pool party, I enjoy it. I would, if I was just there myself, or if, my fiance was there, or if it was a small group, I wouldn't go out of my way for it, I don't think. But since we had a big group, I'm not going to say no.
I understand.
But at the same time, too, I had a freaking awesome time. It was amazing. I probably would do it again.
Yeah, you've earned it. Yeah. And I would be horrific at your bachelor party. You would see me at dinner and whenever you guys woke up the next day. That's when you would see me, basically.
Can I tell you something funny about that, actually? When Tim Conley had his end of the year presser, I don't know who it was, but somebody had mentioned to him, unbeknownst to me, that I had just returned the day after from my bachelor party. And he said, "Where'd you stay?" I said, "Oh, we stayed at the Fontainebleau." And instantly he said, "Oh, how was Geta?" And I looked at him like, Tim.
So what's Guetta?
David Guetta.
Okay.
David Guetta, the DJ, who's absolutely phenomenal. But I just kind of looked at Tim.
He knows.
Oh, Tim knows.
Yeah, he knows.
Tim knows what's going on.
Yeah, he knows. He's an everyman. And he's in the association.
100%.
And I'm sure the players like Guetta. I'm sure everything's good there.
You can't go wrong with David Guetta. Cannot go wrong.
If you have any wedding or marital advice for Pierre Noujaim, hit the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686, because we're vets. I've been married. This will be 12 years in about a month.
Yeah.
So I've been around the block a time or two. Our listeners, I'm sure, have done that. You can also hit the talk back. Wedding day is a fun day. We'll talk maybe as the hour goes along about more things like that. But I want to throw a bit of a curveball.
Yeah.
And this is Brett Blakemore related. In your long, illustrious career, which started when? Sacramento radio was your first gig, right?
In terms of media overall, yes.
Yeah.
Radio started Sacramento radio back in 2003.
Okay, wow. Yeah, see, again, we are closer to the same age. Our Instagram reels don't account for how close in age we actually are. Yours are Guetta, mine are children. That's how it works.
Growing old, but never growing up, I guess, in my instance.
I got it. So how many times in that career, which now is 22 years, you and I started about the same time. I was fall of 03. Have you overslept and been late for a work shift?
Oh, that's happened because at my first year out of college, when I went back to work for that radio station, I had the morning weekend shift, which the first show started at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So I had to be in the building probably no later than 4:45 just to make sure everything was going. I did it. I for sure did it once on a Sunday. For sure did it once. Did I know I could probably get away with it by moseying in at a certain time on a Sunday as opposed to Saturday? Yeah, I did. For sure one time it happened, though. Absolutely happened at one time.
And how did you feel? Did you get in trouble? Take me through that morning when you oversleep and you're toast.
For anybody that has worked in radio, if you don't, everyone that's worked in radio has had the same dream. And I've had it from that point on. You have a dream where suddenly, if there's dead air, you'll hear, after about 5 seconds or so of solid dead air, you'll hear an alarm or a beep that will indicate to you that you're off the air. And I still have that dream to this day. It's absolutely petrifying feeling when you wake up knowing that, oh my gosh, I should have been at work 20, 30 minutes ago. It's a horrendous feeling.
Brett, you want to update people on why this might be topical today?
I have no idea what you're talking about. That's weird how it's related to me.
I'm curious too.
Want to update people on what happened yesterday and why Sunday sermons didn't start until 9:05 Central Time?
The whole show yesterday.
Here's the thing. Hold on. Before you get all embarrassed, the reason I had Pierre answer it, and I'll give you my own, it's happened to all of us. It happens to everybody in any job. You shouldn't feel bad. I know you are going to feel bad. That's 50% of the reason why I'm bringing it up. But the other 50 is so you don't feel bad. If we were really mad about it, I wouldn't bring it up at all. We would not even discuss it. There are things we do not discuss, not you and me, just in general in our lives, right? So you should not, you should be embarrassed, but I don't think, we're going to put you on a work improvement plan because you overslept and Sunday sermon. I saw the tweet from Dan that said Sunday sermons will start at 9:05, no later than 9:05. Thanks for the patience or, thanks for your understanding or whatever. I go, oh no. Oh, no.
I was wondering if someone told you.
No.
If you just figured it out.
I follow Dan Barreiro, KFAN on Twitter, and anyway.
None of the texters figured it out, by the way. They're like, the station's off. Brett, help us. So I'm like, I'm your savior.
Yep.
I'm here.
You're Brett to the rescue.
Yeah.
So what happened yesterday?
I looked at my phone, and it was 8:48.
No alarm?
Old ass.
No alarm? So what happened to the alarm on Sunday? First of all, how late were you up playing video games that you overslept for a 9 o'clock Sunday show?
I plead the fifth on that one. But no later than I have at any other point in time that I've made it on time, in plenty of time. I saw the alarm. It was 8. I can turn off my phone alarm in my sleep and go back to bed. I can do that no problem.
Okay.
And I had like 6 of them set like I always do.
Yep.
The problem is I have a physical, like old school alarm that you have to physically go up and turn off, like get out of bed. That's usually my, like, if I'm really struggling, that'll get me going. Didn't set that one. Just did the phones.
I thought we were going to have a bit of a Jean Paul moment from Seinfeld where he was it the volume? Was it the snooze? Was it, was separate knob, the whole situation? Yeah.
It just seems so you just over-snoozed. You just continued in your sleep.
Yeah. I saw, as soon as I saw 8:48, I said a few 4-letter words and ran out the door in about 20 seconds. I think I was out the door.
And so what's the next 15, 20 minutes like?
Call Abbott first.
Yep. Call the boss.
Say, I screwed up. Let's figure it out. Can we get Dan going? And that was the solution we came up with, was to just push it back a couple minutes. But 8:48 to being in this chair at 9:04.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I wasn't going like, my dog wasn't sick or dying, but I was going pretty fast.
I was about to say he went to the Pierre Noujaim School of Driving after that one. Like, just bolted
exactly
right over here.
Yeah, Sunday morning's, though, a nice time to drive. Now, in that Sunday morning shift, because I did it for years.
Mm-hmm.
I did it, and as you know, too, you have to do during football season, Packer preview at 7 a.m. So you're a Sunday veteran. Like, this is something that never happens. But it happened to me. It didn't happen to me on Sundays. There was one time for Packer preview that used to be at 8 where I did sleep very late. And I just used to live up the road, like 2 exits on Highway 100. Mm-hmm. And I pulled in at 7:59. Like, I got into your chair at 7:59, and Sinekin was in here, and he gets the talk back and goes, "Never doubted you. Never doubted you." But I was frantic. And I wasn't playing video games. I'm sure I was at the Loon. This is like 2005, 2006. Like, it happens. I had a time as an intern here where I was interning with the Dave Ryan show in the morning from, whatever that is, 5:30 to 9, 6 to 9. Then I was hitting a bucket of balls, coming back and doing the afternoon shift. Common, Chad Hartman show at the time, maybe working with Dan, 4:30 to 7, I don't remember. But it was also during, like, finals in school. This is when I was actually in one of my 5 colleges, probably my last semester for a story that I'm telling now. And did the Dave Ryan show, went back, studied a little bit, maybe took a test. Just wanted to take a quick nap before I came back to intern. This is 2003, 2004, and woke up to like 42 missed calls from Doogie and Chad Hartman interviewing somebody at like 3:45. And it's the worst feeling.
Oh, it's awful.
It is a terrible feeling because I think we're all professionals. We all take pride in your job. You don't want to oversleep. But sometimes life happens, and unfortunately for you, Brett, it did yesterday, and now it's happened again very publicly.
And Brett, one thing to remember too: you will not be the last. You won't be the last to do it. I promise you that.
Did you let it beat you the whole show? Because that's always my worry for you when something goes wrong. Do you let it beat you the rest of the day, or do you just move on?
It helps that Dan, like, he had me. He could have really taken a cheap shot at me if he wanted to. And if he did, I probably would have let it beat me up the whole. But he did. He just
took the high road.
He didn't even mention it. So he scored big points with me for that one.
And 9:05 is not that bad. I mean, 5 minutes. So
Did you hear that? Dan scored big points with Brett.
Yeah.
After that, Dan scored big points.
I was
Brett's
vulnerable.
a big Dan fan.
Yeah. I was vulnerable.
Yeah.
He could have really reamed me.
All right.
But yeah.
Well, you were nice and early today, so thanks for being here. But the only time you've ever been late or overslept back in 2003. That's an impressive run.
That was 06 or 07. Yeah, I think I woke up at, my shift started at 5. I think I woke up at 6.
Oh.
And luckily we had somebody else in the building who could monitor the situation. I did get a phone call, and just like Brett explained, jumped right out of bed.
Yeah.
And didn't brush with nothing. Where's my pants? That's it. And I'm out the door.
That's the nice thing about TV. You can't do that anymore. But in radio, come as you are. Come as you are. You're good. No one 100%. Cares. We're good. You don't have a big meeting. Nothing like that. We do have that advantage. All right. Let's. We do have some good marital advice and wedding advice to the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line 64686. Hit the talk back as well on your iHeartRadio app for our guy Noujaim on the move. Pierre Noujaim, Fox 9 Sports, hanging out. We learned yesterday. I learned in the ride, the log chute line at Mall of America with my 3 kids. that Kevin Durant was traded to the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
So a lot of us woke up maybe thinking, knowing that the Durant deal was going to be done soon. The draft is coming up on Wednesday. Everybody wants to get their picks where they're supposed to be. There's probably going to be some other moves here in the next few days. So you knew it was probably imminent. And we knew that the Wolves were in the mix, even though we heard Kevin Durant didn't want to play here. More on that later. But your reaction to KD going to Houston for that price and not coming here to Minnesota. How do you feel about the whole situation in totality?
I think it's an interesting fit in Houston. I think he's definitely going to elevate them and probably get them to where they want to get to in terms of at least maybe a Western Conference Finals appearance. I think that he does that for that team. But I have to be perfectly honest, even though he said, through in so many words that maybe he would prefer not to play for Minnesota, I never took that as a sign of it wasn't going to happen. I felt confident enough that if Tim Connolly, as shrewd as he is, if he really wanted to make it happen, I have a feeling Tim Connolly would have found a way to make it happen. Now, the other question, the other part of that equation, of course, is what do you give up? If everybody, I'm sure you guys were playing this game the last 2 weeks, what are we giving up in order to get Kevin Durant? But I just happened to notice one thing maybe that wasn't discussed, but I just thought about it literally on my drive into here when Durant kind of finalized Houston, San Antonio, and Miami as the 3 destinations where he probably would prefer. And I thought to myself, no state income tax.
I knew you were going there.
Because earlier in February, when he squashed a deal that could have sent him back to Golden State, and he said, I don't want to go back there. I'm not saying it's because of the taxes or anything like that. But at the same time, I think you have to start to kind of think of these things a little bit, because if I'm making $10 million in California, that's not the same as making $10 million in Texas or Florida. It's not. And even though you're making 10, 25, 35, 40, $50 million, the more money you make, the more money you want. And even though you already have that much money in the bank, I would have to imagine that plays a little bit of a role.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think you're totally wrong, because we've also heard this. That's why Florida or Tampa Bay is going to win the next 50 Stanley Cups.
Right,
we just heard that with Tampa, right?
Yes.
Same thing. Look at this. Here they are, another Cup team. Although I think the Canadian tax situation is worse than ours, right?
Way worse.
So that doesn't explain Edmonton.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. KD, for the record, has made $447.8 million in his career.
Wow.
But depending on where he's lived, he hasn't kept all of it.
No, that's true.
But
he's hurting.
But I'm not saying you're totally wrong. I'm saying you're a little bit wrong.
It's just a thought.
Yeah.
It's just a factor of the equation. I'm not saying that's driving the conversation.
Sure. Because what's interesting, does he just not want to be cold? Like when it's Texas and Florida.
I mean, I know how he feels.
Yeah, of course you do. We've talked about that every time you come in here. I'm trying to figure out, I can't say you're completely wrong, because I'm trying to figure out why he didn't want to be here. Like, what is it about this situation, playing with these players on this team, that he found so unappealing that it's pretty obvious he straight up, he basically forced his way to Houston. From everything I've heard today, he kept saying no. He said no to Golden State, didn't want to go there. Apparently he wanted to go to Houston last year. He and Ime Udoka, the coach there,
they go back
to Brooklyn. Yep. They get along the whole bit. And as this process was playing out, we're going to play some sound later in the show, maybe with you, from Windhorse, basically saying the Wolves were on their way to a deal last week until Durant said, I'm not going there. That's when that started to pop out. Because when this whole process started, the Wolves were one of the teams that were hot after him, right? Those were the reports. It wasn't until I think some things got down the road with Minnesota that all of a sudden Shams is on NBA Countdown going, here are the 3 teams he said he would go to, which means Minnesota's out, right? So I can't say you're totally right, but I'm just trying to figure out, other than the tax situation, what was so unappealing about this situation to him compared to the others, and how Minnesota fans should feel about that.
I have the same exact feeling, to be perfectly honest, because even though I know it probably would pain some of the Wolves fans to say goodbye to maybe a guy like Jaden McDaniels or whoever else might have been thrown into that deal, at several points, particularly in that Oklahoma City series in the Western Conference Finals, how many times did you sit there and think to yourself, man, this team could use another pure shooter on the floor to take the heat off of Ant?
Yeah.
And even though but when you see the deal that was done to get him, JG, did it not feel like Houston didn't really give up that much? I mean, Jalen Green is a promising young player in this league.
I think they gave up almost nothing.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, if that's all it took to get Kevin Durant, then yes, even, furthermore to your point, is Minnesota not closer to Houston towards getting an NBA title, at least on paper or the feel of it? Minnesota looks like it's farther ahead of Houston in terms of being a championship contender, and KD is a piece that I think could put them over the top. So I'm in agreement with you. I don't know why exactly he targeted Houston the way that he did, or more to the point, why he cast Minnesota out. I would love to know the reason for that.
Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. That is nothing.
No.
For Kevin Durant.
No.
It's not nothing. Obviously, Brooks was an important piece for them. Jalen Green, as you said, a good player. Number 10 pick, the top 10 pick's always a good thing, right? But I think part of that is because he was so strict about where I'm going. So that kind of leads me into my next question, because I've been operating the whole time, and I know Dan has talked about this and others have talked about this. You don't want Kevin Durant here if he's going to be pouty. Now, which I agree with. You want a guy that wants to be here. And Anthony Edwards apparently even but passed on the opportunity to try to talk his good buddy KD into coming with them. Ant basically said, according to Windhorst, not my business. Yeah. He's his own man. I'm not going to call and beg him to come to Minnesota.
Have no problem with that either.
I'm fine with that. I would have called his bluff as a 37-year-old player who at some point wants another max contract, right? I'm guessing he's going to sign one with Houston. I would have called his bluff on that. I would have been comfortable calling his bluff on that to take the chance if these are the types of assets you would have had to give up to get him. You know what I mean? Sure. Because I think any deal that the Wolves put together, depending on who's in it, in my opinion, would have been better than what Houston threw out there. So I'm sure Phoenix probably did want to engage with Minnesota. But my question is, would you have been fine with KD as a rental in a Kawhi Leonard-like role where you don't have to give him the max deal after? Because I would have been.
Yes.
I would have been, because of the money that it would have opened up later. And that's a whole nother discussion about what comes after this season for the Timberwolves and the core that they need to put together in this second apron era where you can't have a ton of super expensive players for very long anymore.
Yeah.
I would have been fine with him as a rental and not giving him the 2-year contract extension, especially if he didn't want to be here, obviously.
I think it depends on what you gave up. You would have to show me what you're giving up to get him just for a 1-year rental. But I think probably on paper, no matter what you had said to me, I still would have said yes. I don't foresee a situation that I would have said no to bring Kevin Durant here, because I think he would have been a really good fit alongside Ant. I think he would have enjoyed playing for Chris Finch. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm in that, because you only have, especially you have been a lifelong fan of this team.
Unfortunately.
Listen, I understand that you look at Oklahoma City, everybody's talking about how they're building a dynasty and they're built to compete for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And that's what you want. Sure, I get it. But when you have a window to go out and potentially knock down the door and bring home the Larry O'Brien trophy, I don't care if you only did it 1 year. I don't care that if you have an opportunity to get it, go get it. Forget the 5, 6, 7 years down the line. If you feel your window is right now to go get 1, maybe even 2, go out and get it. That's what I would say.
You were in Oklahoma City for the conference finals, were you not?
Games 1 and 2.
Okay. How should we feel about Oklahoma City winning the title as Wolves fans last night? In 7 games, being pushed like they were, when you saw how non-competitive those games were and much of that series was.
Yeah, I heard you talking about it before I came in here, actually, and I was along. You and I are sharing a brain today, I swear, because I thought to myself, well, Denver took him to 7 games.
Right.
Indiana took him to 7 games. What was it about our team here in Minnesota that just didn't match up properly, or something wasn't clicking in that series that really, for all intents and purposes, it was a gentleman's sweep? Game 4 was ultra competitive. Yeah. I mean, Minnesota had a chance to come back and win that game.
That was an awesome game.
It was
that was another one of my what ifs.
Great game.
What if the Wolves found a way to win Game 4? Yeah. What may have happened? Because we've seen Oklahoma City not play great with different pressure on them all season. When they have no pressure, they're unbelievable. You were there, right?
Oh, yeah.
When they take 10 to 20 and that place is going crazy with only Oklahoma fans because they don't allow people outside of like a 5-state area to buy tickets.
Yeah.
So there's like very few other than Reggie Miller and a couple of Pacer fans there last night. Game 4 was a huge what if. What if they figured out that game, and Oklahoma City was so good that game. Jalen Williams was awesome that game. What if they go back to OKC and it's tied 2-2? We'll never know. But other than that, like you said, it was a gentleman's sweep.
It was. I remember game one. Minnesota looked good in that first quarter in game one. I think like the first half of that second quarter as well before some mistakes were made and then Oklahoma City kind of flipped the light switch. But I even tweeted it out after the series. I said, sometimes it's not about getting beat, it's how you get beat. And seeing the team go out there and have the type of performance that we saw in game 5 with your season on the line, you really kind of have to tilt your head. We saw it the previous year against Dallas in a game 5 situation as well. You kind of have to tilt your head and you think to yourself, something's not right here. Something's missing. You cannot go out on the floor with your season on the line and have the type of performance that we saw, not just against Dallas, but against Oklahoma City as well. That raises a red flag for me. It really does. And that's why I'm very curious to see what Tim's going to do with this team in the offseason. There's obviously a lot of decisions that have to be made, particularly with Julius Randle and Naz Reid. So something has to change. I don't know how drastic it needs to be, but I think there's something to be said about how you got bounced from the postseason that should initiate some type of shift, so to speak, in how you approach it.
When we come back, we'll talk about some of those key decisions because we will start to hear of some of those in the next week or so. The NBA draft is on Wednesday. There's a bunch of opt-in deadlines for Naz Reid, Julius Randle, opt-ins, opt-outs. There's a Nickeil Alexander-Walker situation that has to be resolved. Will there be a big trade? And I want to talk to my native Sacramento friend about a former Sacramento King whose name has been thrown around a little bit. His name is De'Aaron Fox.
Oh, my.
I love him. I love him for the Wolves if he's available because San Antonio Davy has the number 2 overall pick and they're going to take a point guard. I think Harper from Rutgers. Should the Wolves be interested in De'Aaron Fox? I know my answer, but I'm going to ask the Kings fan when we come.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in my...
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.